hear some speakers about what we've done down here in the village. We're going to start out with the mayor, and at the end we're going to take a nice tour of the whole neighborhood, and we'll get more into that as well. But we're going to start out with Mayor Sherry.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you. It's so exciting to see so many people here today. I just wanted to welcome you. I'm Dana Sherry. I've been the mayor so far for 3 years. I'm on my last year right now. I'm very excited about a lot of things that we've accomplished here. We want to take you on a tour of our village, show you some of the things that we're doing and that we already have done. So thank you. And here is our Norabel.
Hi, Hi everyone, thank you again for being here. I'm Norabel Greenberger. I'm a senior planner with Labella Associates. We're really excited to be working with the village and the IDA on the Herkimer BOA. We are huge proponents of the BOA program and what it can do to advance revitalization in communities. We've seen this across New York State in communities large and small that have really used the BOA program as a launching pad for whether it's a successful DRI application, New York Forward application, really getting that public and private investment in communities. With the BOA in Herkimer, what was really exciting and unique to us is it's actually coming on the heels of just completing the DRI Strategic Investment Plan. And you can see from the two maps to my right here of the DRI and to my left here of the BOA, it's a very similar study area. So we are not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but really started this process asking, what can the BOA do to further help the village and further advance revitalization in the community? And we had two real goals that we're looking to address as part of this. The first is, again, not reinventing the wheel. We have that vision. We have that community identified goals. We know there's going to be $10 million invested in the downtown. So we wanted to look at those properties that weren't able to take advantage of the DRI funding. So they're not getting funded through that $10 million fund. They're not part of the strategic investment plan. And we wanted to understand why. So what were those hurdles that were really the reasons they weren't able to take advantage of that funding opportunity, and how can we use the BOA program to get those properties ready for further investment through other programs. So really working collaboratively with those property owners to understand those issues. The second goal was to get people excited about downtown and what it could be. If you saw as you were just coming in or as you were driving down North Main Street, there's installations across the street, all of these buildings that we'll be walking by. We wanted people to start thinking about these buildings again. A lot of times these brownfield, underutilized, vacant, abandoned properties, they become part of background noise. They sit there vacant for so long, you don't think about them. You don't think about what they once were, what they could be. We wanted people to start thinking about them again. So we're excited to walk through the different opportunities we've identified at these sites. But before doing that, I'm going to pass it to Tom here from HRP to give some background of EPA work that he's been doing in the village with the IDA, and then over to Stefan at Department of State, and then to John, and then lastly to Mirren. So everyone's going to talk.
I'm Tom Sedgwick with HRP, and what we're doing is the environmental. After all, this is considered a brownfield, and this is an example of brownfields aren't always those big, ugly industrial sites. We did a preliminary review, under the BOA grant, as looking at these sites, and all of these sites, due to their age, are going to have asbestos, lead paint, and then a few of them have minor issues, like it was a former inking facility. So yes, there's going to be some issues, but they're all manageable. And what's happening is that Norabel and her crew is doing a great job going out and identifying the key sites. That means when we come in to do the environmental under different grants that John has, and possibly the BOA grant, it's very targeted. We know exactly what they want for a use. And so the environmental studies are very targeted and very useful instead of us as just environmental people swimming around with no direction. So this, to me, is a real model of how communities should do it. Really, you lead off with a BOA, you get a DRI, and then the environmental people come in and key in on your key sites. So this is a model of how to redevelop a community in my book.
I'm Stefan Lutter. I'm a Department of State project manager or revitalization specialist. I've been associated with Herkimer for a while now because I worked also on last year's DRI in the village. The BOA program was originally applied to by the village in 2022 before the DRI, and that's been now underway. The planning process for that has been now underway since last summer, essentially. Meanwhile, the DRI was applied to in 2023, and the planning process for that was last summer. So it's interesting. It's not very common in the state to have the two things sort of immediately concurrent to each other, as Norabel mentioned. Both the geographic area is almost identical, but also the timing of it is very similar. So, the two processes are sort of complementing each other and working off each other. And we hope that in a couple years, and we feel confident about it, that the village is going to be a really good example of sort of how the two programs work together towards an end goal of a really transformed, revitalized area.
So we decided to work with the village and the trustees and the county probably about 3 years ago on how we can best address the county seat, the village of Herkimer, and what we can do to get things not back the way they were, but something changes so we can get downtown going again. I look around the room and I see people that I grew up with, that we lived in Herkimer, and we used to have the Santa walk down Main Street, Mr. Seaver. I think I was 15 years old before I knew it was Mr. Seaver. But I mean, it was a great place to grow up. We had liquor stores, we had hobby stores, we had camera shops. But we see that there's differences. We see that the buildings haven't taken back what we needed to do. Joe's done a great job here at Munger's. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for hosting us too today. And we wanted to see how we could best pool our resources with the multiple grants that we received from the EPA in New York State, and we did that. So now's the time when we look at the plans and how we can move ahead. Today, most of you were at our summit up on the Brownfield Summit up on the hill. We have a lot of developers here. We try to get the best control we can of the properties and how we can best move them into the next step. So today, the walking tour is going to give you an opportunity to see some of those buildings, so you can see some of the thoughts on what we've looked at over this time. There's a couple of people here that were on the BOA committee and the DRI committee as well. But we're looking for feedback too. Don't be afraid to tell us anything that you see or you'd like to see, or potentials for your community. You feel free to ask us what we did and what we can maybe help you out with as well. But we really did surround ourselves with great consultants, and that is 99% of the battle. And then as an IDA, we supported with funding as well as administrative time, because we know how the smaller communities are struggling with staffing and the amount of money that they have to put back into the communities. So even if you're not from Herkimer County, reach out to your IDAs and see what you can make happen in your communities.
We are so excited to share with you all the work of the BOA so far and these great sites that we've been working through and thinking through potential reuses for. We'll talk about a whole range of sites, some that are currently vacant and just looking for tenants, and some that require or we're looking to potentially do a full redevelopment of. So we're really excited to take you around. We'll be stopping at 9 sites. The map is on the 3rd or 4th page in there. We'll be stopping at each one, talking through the site, a little bit about how it relates to the BOA, a little bit of background on existing conditions, and a little bit about the thoughts for the future uses of that property, and again, how they all relate back to this BOA project and the future for Herkimer. We also, as Norabel mentioned, we have these great art installations that we worked with Sidekick Creative to develop, and with the committee and with the village to get installed on several of these sites, and again, to really build that momentum in the community and through today's walking tour, to get people excited about the future of downtown. We'll walk the sites, and then we will wrap back up here, and we'll also stop by Stone Soup, which is a very exciting new restaurant that's going to be opening next door very soon. And I believe I heard there's some snacks and refreshments next door. So we'll wrap up back here. We are at the start of our study area. We wanted to start here because it's a real reminder of what a gateway this entrance to North Main is. And when we do these BOA projects, a big part of what we look at is where are those key gateways that people enter into a community, and how do we really highlight what is so great about this community as people get right in here. So we are obviously along a very busy street here. We've got West Albany here that connects right to North Main Street. We've got Otto's Diner here, which is, if you haven't stopped there in your time here in Herkimer, please do. We stopped yesterday, it's awesome. But our first site is across the street, actually. It's Hummel's there. The building is for sale right now. So this was a key site for us to look at in the BOA, like I said, because it's a part of this gateway. So although it does not need a ton of work up front, the seller is really hoping that they can bring somebody in to really, again, to continue to help revitalize this downtown area. And as we move in to the other sites, and as we start talking about this 100 block, you'll see that there are a lot of different sites in different conditions. So this one is for sale right now. It's a multi-use space. And as we move, we'll talk about the different potential needs on the 100 block.
The next site that we are stopped at is actually multiple sites. This is 115 to 137 North Main. So 115 is the building that you see the fencing around there, second from the left. And then 137 is the gray facade, second to the end there. This is actually multiple parcels, so these are all under individual ownership. They were identified as a key site because it's a high concentration of buildings that are entirely vacant. These, in addition to just being entirely vacant, these buildings unfortunately all have unresponsive property owners, and so they're facing a lot of the same issues. One of the big issues that we wanted to look at is what is the structural condition of these buildings? What are the opportunities for reuse at these sites? So we were able to use the BOA funding to get our structural engineers engaged and come look at the buildings, look at what those opportunities are, what is the structural condition. Unfortunately, it's not good. I think 115 you can see is probably the worst there with the metal fencing. Since we started the process, the back third of the building collapsed, and that fencing is there because potentially the collapse of the rest of the building could be imminent. The other buildings, while they are eligible historic structures, look nice from the outside. On the inside, it's a whole other story. There's missing floors, missing structural beams. There's been water damage through the roof. Really, really costly to think of rehabbing any of these buildings. And unfortunately, because they have unresponsive property owners, it's probably too late for anything to be done that's realistic because of the cost to rehab and with their current condition today. So if that's the current condition, we tried to flip that and think, what is the opportunity here? The opportunity is to look at what these mean together for a development site. While each parcel is about 0.1, under 0.2 acres, combined, this makes a 3/4 of an acre parcel where new ground-up construction could happen with ground floor retail, 30 to 40 apartment buildings, parking in the rear. It's about a $16 to $17 million estimated project. And you can see that in the packet, the renderings and floor plans and cost estimates that we worked with our architects to develop here.
Next site here is right across at the end of this 100 block. This is 141 to 145 North Main. This is a currently fully vacant 2-story mixed-use building as well. The upstairs apartments were renovated relatively recently, but are not currently in use. This is identified as a strategic site for the BOA, largely because, as you can see, it is a part of this 100 block. As Norabel mentioned, the current state of these buildings is influencing what's around it. So again, another thing that we look at very frequently in the BOA process is how these brownfield, abandoned, underutilized, and vacant sites can impact economic development around them. So this is at the corner here. It's a great corner lot and great potential for new retail or commercial use. And so right here, we're not necessarily looking at the full redevelopment like we are in this section, but really just how that can be leveraged to continue to support these property owners who are looking to have new tenants in the space. We actually did some engagement with students at Herkimer College, as well as the high school and the middle school, and in conversations with the committee and through the DRI process on what's missing in downtown and what do you really want to see in these vacant spaces. A lot of that informed what is on the images you see. So the idea is to get creative on the uses or even just have some restaurants. This shows kind of a bar and grill, maybe a barbershop location. So some of those uses that would be great to have in place. Hopefully people can continue to be re-energized about what could be in these main street fronts.
Okay, so the next building we have does not have an installation. It's this building right here, the DEC building. It does not have an installation because it's actively being used right now. It is a DEC office building. It's owned by the state. However, they're going to be vacating this building within the year. So we decided to be proactive in this BOA process and start thinking about what are the opportunities for reuse of this building. It's 20,000 square feet. It's very structurally sound. has a very interesting history with originally an auto use, and so inside there's actually a solid concrete ramp that goes up to the second floor. There's no stairs to the second floor currently. It's a really unique building. So you can see in the packet some concepts for the reuse of the building. At 20,000 square feet, we really looked at what are the opportunities here that would not only serve the local market, but potentially a larger market. And so we have the site shown as a brewery, restaurant, upstairs event space, arcade, really hitting a lot of those, checking a lot of the boxes of what we've heard from community members about what they'd like to see, but also potentially giving that opportunity to market and sell beyond the boundary of just the village of Herkimer itself. The total estimated project cost for the redevelopment as shown in the concepts is about $4 to $5 million.
This is the Palmer House. It is a 5-story former hotel building, which was built in 1889. Its most recent use was dormitories for Herkimer College. And so because of that, they are all single room occupancy housing. So that just means that there's not a bathroom in every single unit. So in looking at this building, this is obviously a very strategic site for the downtown area because of its sheer size, its historic relevance, and it seems like everybody who lives around Herkimer knows something about this building or remembers it in some way as the Palmer House. And so when we were looking at it as a part of our market analysis and as part of the existing conditions analysis, there's a clear demand for housing in the village and in the county as a whole. And so what we wanted to look at this site was how can we rearrange, how can we redevelop this site to accommodate new apartments and new residential housing for the residents or for new residents of the village. So this is about a 30,000 square foot building. The redevelopment, the concept plan outlines about 30 apartment units in the building on the second, third, and fourth floors. There are 3 commercial units on this ground floor, which are currently vacant and available. The whole building is for sale for about $1 million. And we are really excited about the potential for this redevelopment as, again, having residential right along this downtown with new retail, new restaurants, new shopping opportunities is a great way to continue to bring people back out onto Main Street and re-engage the community here. The site is about 0.4 acres, and on the 4th floor, the apartments would be lofted because of the ceiling height, but this has great opportunity for new residential in the village.
Here you can see the brown brick building just past the church. That's the old Masonic Lodge. What we've done to date in there is done all the asbestos removal, did a complete clean out. We're working on a couple other grant opportunities, but our end plan would be in the basement, which is about 11-foot high ceilings. We'll put a state certified kitchen in there, so people that want to develop their own food product. On the first floor will be like a shared office space. Second floor would be the IDA offices, and there's a great room that's 30 by 30 feet high and 70 feet long. So we feel as that would be a nice anchor for the village of Herkimer on Main Street. Cost to redevelop that whole project is about $9 million.
Okay, so we are at 2 properties. I'll talk about the first and then pass it to Miran. These are both owned by the same person that owns the Palmer House. Here, kind of similar to the first building that Miran highlighted on West Albany Street. This is 230 North Main Street, 2,000 square foot building, looking for tenants. So it's again showing the impact of vacancies, abandoned properties, how that can have spillover impacts on other properties, and really have that compounding impact of how do you start bringing in businesses into the community. One thing I do want to highlight though, because that you can see from here, if you notice the building to your left, that's the old Bill's School building. I think John talked about that a little bit this morning if you're up at the conference. The village and the IDA are working with the developer to renovate this school to bring housing into downtown Herkimer. So this is going to be a huge new opportunity of more residents that are downtown that'll hopefully help support future businesses to come into properties like 230 North Main Street.
Yeah, and like Norvell said, since we're here, I'll also just mention 216 North Main Street, which is this next building here, which you'll walk by, which also has some of our installations in it. We wanted to highlight these buildings also because this is a property owner who we've been in contact with, have been in touch with pretty frequently throughout this project, and he's really interested in reutilizing some of his space. So that is part of it is this carpet storefront on the left side, and on the right side is a currently vacant 10,000 square foot section of the building. And so he's really trying to think through how to reutilize that space. His vision for that area right now is several stalls, like a market type setup, really responding to the fact that while there might not be people ready to fill a space that big in the village right now, there's a great opportunity to engage local entrepreneurs or people or local artists to have small storefronts right within that area. So great another opportunity for redevelopment on that site as well.
Okay, so we are at the final site, which is also where we started. This is 138 North Main Street. I wanted to start in the front of this building just to note how this building is actually comprised of 4 separate structures. So this stone soup building here, the 2 larger ones, and then there's a smaller one at the end. They're all under single ownership, single lot, over an acre in size. Joe, he's put in a ton of investment, sweat equity in working to revitalize this 80,000 square foot building. And it's a really unique structure. To date, if you go into Munger's, which is the building, the business right here, I highly recommend everything from homemade cannolis to snacks to Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And the next new exciting thing that's happening is Stone Soup, this new bistro that Robbie is opening. Though Joe's focus in revitalizing this building has all been about how do we make this more functional? How do we get more tenants into the space? The entire middle section and the first and lower floors are fully occupied with Munger's. Now there's a new tenant coming in here. The space that we started in is also going to be an expansion of Munger's that's happening there. He's not been able to put in the time to things like facade improvements. You notice a lot, the windows are all boarded up on the building, or some of the key things like elevators or expanding into the rest of this 80,000 square foot structure. Joe, building owner, is down at the end. Robbie, the business owner, there behind the bar. Again, a lot of investment and sweat equity they've been putting into this building. What you can see on the last pages of your packet is the vision long-term for this building, for this 80,000 square foot building. The building actually has a theater that is fully up there on the 3rd floor. So you'll see on the concept plans that theater, something we heard from students, they'd love to have a theater or a movie theater downtown. It's there and ready, so how can we get that back in business? An event space on the 2nd floor, expanded commercial space, the potential for 2 apartments above this section of the building, and also the idea for a basement speakeasy at the far end of the building. In addition to all that, there's some functional improvements that need to happen. There's no elevator access currently, so rehabbing a historic elevator, creating that flexibility and ability to go between the different uses for everyone that comes into the building. The overall total cost for that renovation is $4 to $5 million. What we really are hoping as part of this process is to use the materials that were created here, these concept plans, the cost estimates, as now, this is a resource for the village, the IDA, for the property owner, to then take these materials and use them to go after grant funding to hopefully see these projects realized, because you need those materials in order to get a successful grant. And without a project and a process like the BOA, it's really hard for a lot of small property owners to have that investment and to be able to prepare those materials. So I don't know, Joe, if you had anything else to add about the building, or Robbie, if you wanted to add anything about the restaurant.
I've been in Rhode Island for the last 25 years in the restaurant business. I've opened restaurants, consulted for restaurants, and then faith and fate, I actually met Joe Chilelli working together for the DRI grant for the village. We had a couple meetings downstairs, and then we started talking, and then we ended up at this position here now. Came up with the name Stone Soup. My daughters actually did. It's a great story just for kids to learn. It's all about how a community helps enrich families. What I've been trying to do passionately with Joe, along with Joe and a few other people, is making Herkimer better again to where it once was before and what it can be again. And I have that full belief in that. To take my bags from Rhode Island and move back home. And I really do believe in investing into this community. So I put a lot of money to make the facade of the restaurant better, just so that it can stand out and hopefully exponentially it grows from this building and this property. Because if we implanted Main Street out of Herkimer and put it any other place, it would do really well. It just takes people that want to have the initiative to do it and have the plan to do it and follow through on it. And Joe is just one of the prime examples of what can actually happen, especially with the large property he has and what he's done already with that, and then giving the opportunity for me to come and do what I do. So it's this building, this is a passion project, this restaurant is.
Thank you all for being here. I hope that this showed the possibilities of what the BOA program can do, the flexibility of the program, and how it's really designed to advance revitalization in communities. We've been really enjoying working with the IDA, working with the village, and we think there's so much potential, so much opportunity here. It's great to see businesses like this opening up, and just thank you all for joining on the tour. Thank you.